Hello from Weymouth Library. We'd like to do a story time with you. This was a very quickly organised one, so sadly I didn't have any books to hand, which I know is completely unbelievable given we're in a library, but I do have a story in my head, and it's a story you probably know. But hopefully you won't mind listening to the story of the three little pigs again. So here we go. There was a mummy pig, and she had 3 children. Now these children had been eating an awful lot for an awful long time, and she decided, rather than her providing them with food and a roof over their heads, they needed to go out into the world and make their own way. So she said, my little pigs, please go your own way. And you know what? They did. But they were huffing a bit, and they were a little bit fed up with having to go and make their own way in the world. But they knew their mother had given them good advice. Go and find an appropriate place to make your home that is going to be safe and made out of materials that are going to keep you safe and not fall down. So the 3 little pigs went on their way, and off they trotted. The oldest pig was a little bit lazy, so as soon as he bumped into a farmer with some straw, he said, "Oh, farmer, can I have some straw to make my house?" Well, the farmer said, "Yeah, okay." So he built his house of straw. Now he was the first pig to build his house, so he thought he was very clever, because he was all settled into his nice house a long time before his brothers were. The other 2 brothers continued. The middle brother had a bit more energy than the oldest, but not as much as the youngest. So when he bumped into a farmer with some sticks, he said, "Farmer, farmer, can I have some sticks?" And the farmer said, "Yes, of course you can have my sticks, because this is the kind of thing farmers do." So he built his house of sticks, and he thought he was very clever because he had a much stronger house than his older brother, who had the house made of straw. But he didn't have to walk as far as he assumed his youngest brother would have to walk. So he was all settled in and quite happy making his cups of tea. The youngest brother, who always ended up with the short straw, so to speak, went the furthest, but he followed his mother's advice. He found a nice little safe spot by a stream, and he bumped into a farmer with some bricks. He said, "Farmer, farmer, can I have some bricks?" And the farmer said, "Yes, of course you can have some bricks." So he'd spent a long time making his house of bricks, but once it was built, it was very solid indeed. Now meanwhile, there was a wolf, and the wolf was getting rather hungry, but he smelled something on the air, and it was pig. So he followed his nose, and he found a house made of straw, and he knew, because he could smell, what was inside. So he called into the house and said, little pig, let me in, or I will huff, and I will puff, and I will blow your house in." Well, the little pig was frightfully scared, so he says, calling back out through the window, "No, no, no, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." Well, the wolf wasn't terribly happy, and he was terribly hungry, so he huffed, and he puffed, and he blew the house in, and the straw went everywhere, and the poor little pig was left sitting there with his breakfast, with no house around him, staring out at a wolf. So he runs, and he runs, and he runs, until he gets to his middle brother's house, which was made, as we remember, of sticks, which looked much safer. He ran through the front door, slammed it behind him, and he says to his brother, a wolf is coming." And his brother says, a wolf, the wolf is coming?" And he says, yes, the wolf is coming." And oh my word, they were frightened together, and they hugged each other because they were scared, but the house was made of sticks, so they hoped it would be much stronger. The wolf came along, following his nose, and he found the house made of sticks. Now his wolf told him there was not 1, but 2 pigs inside the house. And he was rather hungry now, and his tummy was rumbling. So he called in, little pigs, let me in, or I will huff, and I will puff, and I will blow your house in. Well, the little pigs hugged each other. They were shaking frightfully, and they said, no, 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 not by the hair on our chins. And the wolf was mortified at this. So he huffed, and he puffed, and he blew the house in, and the sticks went everywhere, just as the straw had done before. And these two little pigs were sitting there, hugging each other with a cup of tea each, with nothing between them and the wolf. So they ran, and they ran, and they ran, and they ran. And you'll never guess where they ran to, or I suspect you have guessed. They ran to their little brother's house. The little brother they thought was a fool, really, because he'd spent so long walking and so long building his house. But they ran in through the front door, and they slammed it behind them, and they both said at the same time to their littlest brother, the wolf is coming. And he says, the wolf is coming. And they said, yes, the wolf is coming. And they were frightfully scared, except the littlest brother was not so scared, because he kind of thought his house was fairly solid. So when the wolf turned up outside and called through the window, and he was famished at this point, and his tummy was rumbling so much you could have sworn there were thunderclouds nearby, and he said, little pigs, let me in, or I will huff, and I will puff, and I'll blow your house in. Anyway, they shouted back, or rather the youngest did, no, not by the hair on my chin. And the wolf was most annoyed by this, because he was very hungry. So he huffed, and he puffed, and he... Well, the huff and the puff all went out of him, because it had no effect on the brick house whatsoever. It just stayed there. And the littlest pig, the youngest pig, sat there quite happy with himself, with his cup of tea and his cucumber sandwiches, as his brothers shivered in fear, because he knew he was safe. And gradually they realized they were safe too. But the wolf was very hungry, and he was very determined, because his nose had told him there was not one, not two, but 3 pigs in this brick house. So he climbed up the side of the house, and he climbed across the roof, and he got to the chimney. And he thought, this is my way into these little pigs, and he started to lower himself down the chimney. Well, the older brothers had heard the noise up the side of the house, and the tiptoeing wolf across the chimney, because wolves are quite heavy. And they had heard the scraping as he started to come down the chimney, and they said, the wolf is coming down the chimney. And the youngest pig was not bothered at all. He wandered over, and he lit his fire that had been ready for the cold winter evening. Well, the fire started off smouldering, and then it lighted up a bit more and got a bit warmer, and then it roared to life. Meanwhile, the wolf was getting closer and closer and closer, and he realized his bottom was getting warmer and warmer and warmer, until all of a sudden he realized his tail and his bottom was on fire, and whoosh! The wolf flew out of the chimney. Now where he landed, because he went so far, no little pigs knew. And not even the children of the little pigs, when they had them and told the story of the big bad wolf, knew where they went. And not even their grandchildren ever saw the big bad wolf again. So, the moral of the story is, if your mother tells you to find a good place to build your house and build it of something solid, you should probably listen to her, because mother usually knows best. I hope you enjoyed our little story. And we'll say goodbye from Bookstart Bear and goodbye from Weymouth Library. It was nice talking to you, and we will see you soon.